Okay, welcome back. The market's doing just fine. 80 points, 19,876 is where we are at. It's just great going. But for one name, it's not so great going. I'm talking about Raymond, which continues to be under pressure even today. I mean, I think from highs of about 1,900 recently, the stock's now under 1,600 rupees. Although from the day's low today, it's come up a little bit. Now, Institutional Investor Advisory Services has written an open letter to the independent directors of the Raymond board asking them to undertake an investigation into the allegations, on both counts, the sort of alleged assault and the CEO excesses, as has been claimed. To discuss this in some greater detail, we are joined by Hetal Dalal, President and COO at the firm IiAS. Hetal, great to have you with us here. Thank you very much for your time. So tell us the crux of what you're telling the independent directors to do here.
So thank you for inviting me, Prashant. I think the independent directors have been silent so far. There is an impact on stock price. I think what we're only saying is that the independent directors need to act. Now, given that they are silent, we really don't know what has transpired in the boardroom. But we do know that there have been a couple of board meetings after the alleged incidents of the domestic violence. So have they really sort of discussed this? Has there been any action? We really don't know because the board has been silent. So given their silence, what we're suggesting simply is that the board undertake an independent investigation. They hire a firm which is not associated with the family or associated with the Raymond group of companies. A firm which is largely independent, who will undertake an investigation and ascertain the facts. Is there any merit in the argument for domestic violence? Is there any merit in the argument of the fact or the allegation that company funds are being used for personal benefits, which we sort of call the CEO excesses, and based on that, sort of take action. Now, typically, when a company would run an investigation, the investigation will come out with a set of facts, right? The investigation is not going to cover a set of recommendations. That is for the board to sort of figure out. So we're saying essentially, once the facts come into place, the questions the board needs to ask, there are some 5 questions, right? One is to say, is there a violation of code of conduct by either party, including but not limited to sort of moral turpitude? Second is there a possibility of criminal liabilities being attached to the company or any of its directors? Third is, if this incident does indeed happen, right, can the brand be disassociated from this whole event? Given that the tagline, of course, is of the complete plan. Again, like I said, if you look at the responsibilities of the audit committee, whistleblower complaints are supposed to go to the audit committee. Now, if you have a board who's alleging that she is whistleblowing, board member who's alleging that she is whistleblowing or has become a whistleblower of sorts, then essentially there is a responsibility of the board to actually examine whether there is merit in this entire allegation of CEO excesses. And if there is, then how do they sort of stop further leakages? What is the kind of plugs that they actually put in place? And most importantly, again, is that this whole sort of impending divorce which is coming in, right? That's going to be a distraction for the CEO. So in the interim, we recommend that the board actually appoint an interim CEO, get both promoters, Gautam Singhania-Nawaz Singhania, take some time off from their board responsibilities, so they're able to sort of separate the company, its operations, from the battle which is happening between the two and the allegations which are cross-firing, and therefore sort of ensure that the company gets protected, if nothing else, or safeguarded from these allegations. So that's broadly the point.
So, Hetal, if I could sort of come in over here, now maybe a lot of what you're saying, in an ideal world, perhaps that's how things ought to be done. But given that here the person in question is, part of the promoter establishment itself, I mean, wouldn't that complicate things? And B, perhaps a counter-argument, just to play devil's advocate, I mean, a counter-argument from the other side could be that should an independent inquiry be held into matters which may be of civil or criminal sort of nature, because there could be police involved, the courts involved, so should a separate inquiry board be set up at all? And even if it is, then that board will take its own time, or that committee will take its own time to come up with its own observations. So then what happens in the interim? Just, give us a sense going by past. I don't know, I can't remember where a promoter CEO was actually removed by the board till, matters settled in such a case.
Fair enough. It's not an easy solution. I think it is now the role of the independent directors to separate ownership and management. Yes, the fact that Gautam Singhania is a promoter and does complicate matters, I don't take away from that. But we're not suggesting that either that we've actually come to a conclusion, right? All we are saying is to separate and identify what the problem is and therefore address it. At the very least, therefore, you can always ask them to take a step back and say that let's sort of get the facts right and let's figure out how much of it impacts the company, how much of it is actually personal, and therefore a battle between the two which the company doesn't need to get involved in, and then take that action forward, right? At this stage, the board has said nothing, so we don't know what has happened. Now, if you look at research, right, and there is research which says there was a research, there's a paper which has been put out by Stanford which says that in the US, right, where CEOs undertook, well, not strictly illegal activities, but legal, but not necessarily in the best of sort of context. What did the board do? In 50% of these times, the board actually undertook an investigation separately, right? You look at SEC regulations, right, where you have whistleblower coming in. There is a need to run an independent investigation. So running an investigation is part of a course to just objectively understand what are the challenges, how much of the company get involved, and how much of the company actually leave out. So I think this is something that the board really does need to do. Are there past instances of the board asking promoters to step down? I think the times have changed, right? The topic on corporate governance and CEO behavior has become far more essential now. And while you do hear of CEO excesses in the past, I think the fact that there's an allegation of domestic violence, you don't hear that publicly often enough, right? So I think the allegations are serious. The board needs to take cognizance of the solution, and therefore, take some steps or some action to show that it is in control and addressing the allegations and nothing else. It may well turn out that after the allegation, they're saying all of this doesn't really sort of stack up, or even if it stacks up, it's not the company's problem. That is a separate argument to make. Let's just first ascertain what the issues are, and let's take some action to assuage the concerns of the investors. So I think that would be the one way to look at it. I'll stop there.
Hetal, just one sort of question. Does the board only get involved because it may hurt the prospects of the company? I mean, all these allegations and what they imply, or just given the fact that these allegations are serious in nature? I mean, we all talk about ESG, and this, I'm assuming, falls somewhere within the purview of that, right? I mean, independently of whether or not it hurts. I mean, if these allegations turn out to be true, isn't it the board's responsibility to take note of these?
If the allegations turn out to be true, yes, it is important that the board takes cognizance of it, right? You have to, in the context of ESG or even otherwise, you need to question whether, assuming that these allegations are true, this is the tone you want to set at the top. And if this is the tone you want to set at the top, what does it mean for corporate culture? And once you set corporate culture, that sort of drives more or less every action that you take. So yes, it is in the interest of the board to get these facts together, figure out whether there is any reality. I think dismissing it simply saying that...
Yeah, I think in that note you also say, even if tomorrow both parties decide to settle the matter, but the fact is that it would still be incumbent on the board to get to the bottom of this, right?
Yes, I think if it turns out that the allegations are true of domestic violence or CEO excesses or both, I think it's not action that board should allow to be condoned, right? Our view, the view, of course, is that, as I said, that is this the tone you want to set at the top? And again, if you separate ownership from management, the question you have to ask is, can this company also be run by a professional? I mean, if you look at the entire articulation, the annual report, they have leadership depth, they have people with industry experience, they have a succession planning in place. So therefore, board also needs to ask that, is this problem, is this allegation, is this battle something that they need to continue with, or is it time that they can find a stop or put a stop to it and at least protect the company from this whole issue?
Sure. Thanks for the views there, Hetal. I think we will keep talking about this, keep getting your thoughts on the matter as this story unfolds, because clearly, I mean, this is perhaps just the beginning till we hear more from the board. We see what Mr. Singhania has to say, if at all, if he's going to be willing to step down, or will he resist if this comes up at the board level. Thank you very much for your thoughts on the subject today.